We've got this big winter storm finishing on up in the northeast but with some pretty serious winter weather and some heavy snowfall. I've got the details on that, the cool air surge that's not far behind it, leaving us chilly for Turkey Day, as well as snowy systems potentially shifting southward towards the end of the month. All the details in this video.
One Nation Weather.
If you want to get into some of the longer range content, go ahead and head to around 3-4 minutes into the video. But here's a look at what we had for your day one outlook. Of course, we had that enhanced risk yesterday across parts of the south central United States, and it brought 5 preliminary tornado reports, 8 total here, which is a little bit less than we expected, especially in some of these zones. But nonetheless, less is better, right, when it comes to weather. Now, in terms of your HRRR near-term system timeline for us, we've got snowfall making its way through parts of the Adirondacks, all the way through Vermont, into parts of New Hampshire, as well as western Massachusetts. This evening, as we make our way towards around midnight, you're waking up early on your Wednesday morning. You might not hear anything. You thought you were going to be hearing rain. No, you're hearing a little bit of snowfall. Or you're not hearing it, I should say, right? Because you're not going to hear those flakes coming on down. But we will begin to hear some of the sleet, and then eventually this turn on over to rain from southwest to northeast. We'll see some showers hit places like Boston after maybe a brief start with some snow showers or sleet. Places like Connecticut, Rhode Island, eastern, New York, all these areas getting on in at some moderate rain after seeing that moderate snowfall. This takes over in all areas except for Maine with this system into our Wednesday morning. And then you could see most of the system moving on out by Wednesday afternoon, with the exception of northern and central parts of Maine where the snowfall continues, whereas along the far southern coastline of Maine, we get some of that rain to push on in from the Atlantic coastline. So long story short, snow turning over to rain for pretty much everyone in the northeast with this system. But before we get that changeover, we could pick up a quick, 5 to 8 inches of snowfall here, so some pretty decent accumulations on the ground here. This is the HRRR model. This is a special snowfall ratio for the near-term model, so this is really just using all factors, ground temperature, all of that here being factored on in. And of course, it's looking like briefly we'll pick up this amount of snow, but in most communities, this is just going to turn on over to rain, again, with the exception of those areas in Maine that you're seeing, and that is where we'll actually get those accumulations of 6 to 8 inches in some areas to hold true. Now go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel. That really helps me out here. Leave comments down below if you have any concerns or anything you want to share with me down there, or have any questions. Now with your Euro model departing storm timeline, you can see this system continues making its way off towards the east. Really, we're going to see this completely push off the Carolinas, the Georgia, the Florida coastline with that shower and storm activity by the afternoon on your Wednesday, leaving everyone dry across the entire country, with the exception of some areas in the northwest. Now, here we go, your hazards map again, winter weather alerts into parts of northern New York, parts of Vermont, parts of northern New Hampshire, as well as through central Maine. And then we've also got winter storm watches being posted, along with winter weather advisories in parts of Idaho, Montana, as well as Wyoming, and those will continue to move southeastward with a new system that we're timing out right now. So let's get right into that here. As we make our way towards our Thanksgiving, you'll wake up in the morning to some light snowfall in eastern Idaho, parts of northwestern Wyoming. This snowfall band is going to continue progressing southeastward throughout the day on your Thanksgiving, and really even into our Friday. Look at how the isobars as it hits parts of the Rockies here in northern Colorado. You can see that means that we're going to have some high winds blowing on in, as well as a chance for some of the snowfall to be quite heavy at times. So this is going to be pretty messy, and we will probably see some winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings continue to be posted with this system as it makes its way on off towards the south and east. Now, some light snowfall touching parts of western Nebraska, even some moderate snowfall moving on into Kansas, the panhandle of Oklahoma, the northern Texas panhandle there, as well as northeastern New Mexico as that low develops there and turns into a surface low in New Mexico. We continue to see this system progress eastward as we make our way in towards our Sunday time frame, and notice here we'll get some light snowfall moving into parts of the Midwest, while rainfall continues in at least some light to moderate fashion over parts of Texas, as well as southeastern Texas, where maybe a few thunderstorms could mix in the Houston area. Notice high pressure quickly builds back into the Rockies behind this system, and it's going to be some cold high pressure. You can see those isobars moving eastward. Not much in the way of activity with this system as it makes its way to the east, but we'll watch for maybe some brief snowfall to clip parts of the Ohio Valley and head towards the northeast Sunday the 26th into Monday the 27th. But overall, the overwhelming trend is going to be high pressure, and that's pretty good news to see some nice weather moving on into parts of the country, though it will be pretty cold as we head towards next week. Now with your Euro model news system timeline, again, parts of Wyoming, pretty much the entire state getting very solid snow, some of the higher elevations picking up 12 to 18 inches of snowfall. But some of these areas that I want to focus on that's a little unusual to get this amount of snow, Panhandle of Nebraska, as well as far western Kansas, picking up a quick maybe 4 to 6, maybe even 8 inches of snowfall there. Some pretty nice accumulations in those areas. Now that we know that we're going to have that little snowy system, of course, we know there's going to be some cooler air in place. Let's talk about those temperature anomalies. Here's what we're looking at for Thanksgiving. Cooler air with that system just beginning to push into the north central United States. We're also going to have a cool pocket down here over the southern United States. Now, one zone that's going to be a little bit warmer than average is actually over parts of Texas, Oklahoma, through the Midwest and into the Ohio Valley, as brief southerly winds pick up ahead of that cold front, but that one's going to be the one that pushes cold air eastward, even if you don't get precipitation, which is going to be most of you there east of the Rockies, of course. Now we can see that snowy system as it breaks apart. What's also going to break apart is this area of cooler air, and we're going to see 10, 15, 20 degree departures kind of spread out into some random areas across the country. By the time we head through November 24th through 25th, well, this is as we go Friday into our Saturday and beyond, we're going to begin to see these 5, 10, 15 degree departures move on over the southeastern United States. As we make our way towards the end of November, look at how we get another pole of cooler air with the Euro model solution, moving on in out of southern and eastern Canada, especially prominent over the northeastern region, but especially all the way back on down to the Gulf Coast, cooler than average air moving in, near average to slightly above average there in the west. Now with your Climate Prediction Center temperature outlook for that time frame, that's exactly what we're looking at. Warmer than average on the west coast, a little bit above average there into parts of the mountain west, but of course with that snowy system moving eastward and really just falling apart, and then with some cooler air moving on in behind that, we're going to be well below average, especially over the Ohio Valley and the eastern tier during the end of our November time frame. In fact, how cold are we going to get? Let's do some temperature tracking with the Euro model. Here we go, waking up on your Wednesday morning. This is November 22nd, so right after I'm filming this. 20s in parts of the upper Midwest, but that's the only place below freezing. We continue to see some cooler air lingering around at times, but overall, pretty mild start to Thanksgiving. In the days surrounding it for us here, of course, at least for our Wednesday, again, 60s and 70s into parts of the plains. That's warmer than average, of course. But notice this, the freezing line here. Pretty much Canada is the freezing line, the Canadian border. That's going to change even in the afternoons here. Here we go, Thanksgiving afternoon, only 20s and 30s in the Dakotas. So if you're having to try have some sort of family football game for your Thanksgiving evening here, it's going to be pretty mild from parts of the eastern and southern half of the country. But over here, over the north central, it is going to be well below average by about, say, 5, 10, 15 degrees, and that's going to bring in these very chilly temperatures into the teens and 20s even during the daytime hours. Here we go towards our Friday, November 24th in the afternoon, quite cold. Waking up on your Saturday, November 25th in the morning, we've got teens and 20s from a line here from parts of the mid-Atlantic all the way back through the central plains as well as the west coast, all the way northward to Canada. Some readings here go in sub-zero there into parts of Wyoming. We'll also have some very chilly single digits and teens here into parts of the northeast as well. This is going to be a big cool down, keeping it mild with 40s, even some 50s and 60s into parts of the southeast and towards Florida. And then with the Euro model temperature tracking continuing, look at this as we make our way towards our November 26th. This is Sunday. We keep the cooler air, and it looks like it's going to be, again, well below freezing, even well below zero into some of the Rockies there. And we continue to see some cooler air begin to move eastward, again, with the exception of the southeast initially. That's going to be what changes, though, as we go about 6 to 10 days out. This cooler air patch continues to move southeastward, and we'll even see some freezing readings. In fact, well below average readings move eastward to finish the month. And then, look at that. Some of these colors quite concerning there in the northeast that you might be waking up to on the first day of December. Well below zero into parts of the northeast, certainly not out of the question if some of this cooler air can pull itself further and enough eastward to cause those problems. So this is what we're looking at here with your temperature tracking, and overall the main point with this is that the freezing line is going to continue to move southward as we go throughout the next couple of weeks and even push eastward and into some areas that might not have even seen freezing temperatures yet. If you haven't seen that yet, then you might be getting it soon. Climate Prediction Center precip outlook for this time frame as we head towards the November 27th through November 31st time frame. Overall, most of the country drier than average. This goes further south than you'd expect with an El Nino, although that El Nino precip zone right along the southern corridor of the United States and in portions of Florida hold strong, with overall systems continuing to pull their way through that area. And that is pretty much going to be it for today's forecast, except for the fact that we've got this tropical update right here. We have a couple of systems that are out there, so it's still technically active for this time of the year, But with it being November and we're only 10 days away from the end of hurricane season, we don't expect many impacts to land, and these systems will not be impacting land really. Maybe some impacts to parts of Mexico and Central America from that 10% chance of development in the Caribbean. But that should just be it, and not much in the way of rain even from that. This system does have a 60% chance over the open waters of the Atlantic, but that's the keyword, open waters, swirling around. No impacts to land, maybe some big waves for Bermuda. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Like, subscribe, comment, and here are the credits. Everyone have a great day, and I'll be back with another video tomorrow.